Yellowstone National Park is a realm where nature's raw power and beauty converge. Spanning over 2 million acres across Wyoming, Montana, and Idaho, it is home to some of the most extraordinary geothermal features on Earth. Geysers that erupt with scalding water, hot springs that paint the landscape in vibrant colors, and mud pots that bubble with primordial energy. Beyond these wonders, the park boasts dense forests, alpine lakes, and a diverse array of wildlife, from majestic elk to elusive wolves. It is a place that captivates the imagination and beckons adventurers to explore its vast wilderness. Among those heeding this call was Emily Carter, a 25-year-old photographer whose lens sought to capture the soul of the natural world. Having recently relocated to Wyoming from the bustling East Coast, Emily was eager to immerse herself in Yellowstone's untamed beauty. Her passion for photography was matched only by her love for adventure, and she had spent years preparing for moments like this, moments where she could blend her artistic vision with the thrill of exploration. Emily was not one to shy away from challenges. She had trekked through rugged terrains, camped under starlit skies, and faced the elements with resilience. Her dream was to create a photo series that would reveal Yellowstone's hidden treasures, those secluded spots far from the well-trodden paths of tourists. To achieve this, she planned a 5-day solo journey along the Bechler River Trail, a remote and less traveled route known for its stunning waterfalls and pristine wilderness. Preparation was key for such an undertaking. Emily devoted months to planning every detail of her trip. She studied topographic maps, familiarized herself with the trail's landmarks, and monitored weather patterns to choose the optimal time for her trek. Her backpack was a testament to her meticulous nature, containing essential gear, a lightweight tent, a warm sleeping bag, dehydrated meals, a water filtration system, and, most importantly, her camera equipment, a high-end DSLR with multiple lenses to capture the park's diverse scenery. Before setting out, Emily shared her itinerary with her brother James, who lived in Colorado. They had always been close, and James admired Emily's adventurous spirit, even if it sometimes worried him. "Be safe out there, Em," he had said during their last phone call, "and don't forget to check in when you get back." Emily assured him she would, promising to send a message via her satellite phone upon her return. On the morning of July 20th, 2025, Emily arrived at the Bechler Ranger Station, the starting point of her adventure. The air was cool and invigorating, carrying the scent of pine and the distant roar of waterfalls. She took a deep breath, feeling a surge of excitement as she adjusted the straps of her backpack. With her camera slung around her neck, she was ready to document every moment of her journey. As she began her hike, Emily passed a group of tourists who were preparing for a day trip. She smiled and exchanged greetings, her enthusiasm evident. "Beautiful day for a hike," one of them remarked. "Indeed it is," Emily replied, her eyes sparkling with anticipation. Little did they know that this brief encounter would be etched in their memories as the last time anyone saw Emily Carter alive. That evening, from her first campsite near the Bechler River, Emily set up her tent and prepared a simple meal. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, she took out her satellite phone and sent a message to James. "Day 1 complete. The park is even more beautiful than I imagined. Can't wait to show you the photos. Love you." James received the message with a smile, relieved to hear from her and looking forward to seeing her photographs. But as the days passed and Sunday arrived without another message from Emily, James's relief turned to concern. Emily was always diligent about checking in, especially after solo trips. By Monday morning, his worry had escalated to fear, and he decided to contact the park authorities to report her missing. Thus began a mystery that would grip the nation as search teams scoured the wilderness for any sign of Emily Carter, the young photographer who had vanished into the heart of Yellowstone. Emily Carter's adventure along the Bechler River Trail began with a surge of excitement. On the morning of July 20th, 2025, she left the Bechler Ranger Station, her backpack loaded with gear and her camera ready to capture Yellowstone's wild beauty. The trail promised solitude and stunning vistas, perfect for her photography project. Her first challenge was crossing the Bechler River, its waters swollen from summer snowmelt. Knee-deep and icy, the current tugged at her legs as she used her trekking pole for balance. Each step was deliberate, testing the slippery riverbed before committing her weight. Emerging on the other side, soaked but triumphant, she felt the thrill of the wilderness. The trail wound through dense forests of lodgepole pines and open meadows bursting with wildflowers, purple lupines, yellow arnicas, and delicate white yarrow. Emily paused often, her camera clicking as she framed shots of the vibrant landscape. In one meadow, she spotted a lone elk grazing, its antlers catching the sunlight. She adjusted her lens, capturing the moment before the animal vanished into the trees. Overhead, a raven circled, its sharp call echoing through the valley. Emily shivered slightly, recalling tales of ravens as harbingers of mystery, but she brushed the thought aside and continued her hike. By late afternoon, she reached her first campsite near Bechler Meadows, a serene clearing beside the river. As she set up her tent and boiled water for dinner, footsteps crunched on the trail. A tall man with a scruffy beard and piercing blue eyes approached. "Mind if I camp nearby?" he asked, his voice smooth but with an edge that made her uneasy. "I'm Mike," he added, extending a hand. "Emily," she replied, shaking his hand briefly. They chatted about the trail, but Mike's questions, where she was headed, how long she'd stay, felt too probing. His gaze lingered, intense and unsettling. After he left to set up his tent a short distance away, Emily's stomach knotted. She told herself he was just another hiker, but the encounter left her on edge. That night, sleep was elusive. Rustling leaves and snapping twigs outside her tent sounded too deliberate for wildlife. Heart pounding, she unzipped the flap and shone her flashlight into the darkness, but saw only shadows. "Just the wind," she whispered, trying to convince herself. But the forest felt alive with unseen eyes. Day 2 brought more breathtaking scenery as Emily hiked toward her next campsite near Iris Falls. The trail crossed small streams and past cascading waterfalls, their mist creating fleeting rainbows. She stopped to photograph a particularly striking cascade, adjusting her camera to capture the water's silky flow. While reviewing the images, she noticed a dark shape in the background of one shot, a figure among the trees, barely discernible. Her breath caught, but when she looked up, the forest was empty. "Just a shadow," she muttered, though doubt gnawed at her. Throughout the day, the feeling of being watched grew stronger. She glanced over her shoulder repeatedly, catching glimpses of movement that vanished when she turned. By the time she reached the campsite near Iris Falls, her nerves were frayed. The roar of the falls was soothing, but as night fell, the unsettling noises returned. Closer now, like footsteps circling her tent. She clutched her bear spray, listening intently, but when she checked outside, the forest was silent. On the morning of the third day, Emily decided to take a short-day hike to photograph Iris Falls up close. She packed her camera, water bottle, and snacks into her day pack, leaving her main gear secured in the tent. The path to the falls was steep, winding through dense underbrush. The falls were magnificent, plunging over a rocky cliff into a turquoise pool. Emily lost herself in her photography, experimenting with angles to capture the mist and light. As she packed up to explore further upstream, a branch snapped behind her. She spun around, heart racing, to find Mike standing there, his presence jarring in the solitude. "Beautiful spot, isn't it?" he said, his smile not reaching his eyes. "Yes," Emily replied, her voice tight. "I didn't hear you approach." "I moved quietly," Mike said with a chuckle that sent chills down her spine. "Want some company?" "No, thank you," she said firmly. "I prefer to work alone." Mike's expression hardened. "Be careful out here," he warned. "The wilderness can be unpredictable." His words hung heavy as he turned and vanished into the forest. Emily's hands trembled as she gathered her gear. She decided to return to her campsite immediately, her earlier plans abandoned. The trail back felt oppressive, the trees closing in around her. She hurried, glancing back repeatedly, but saw no sign of Mike. But Emily never made it back to her campsite. As the sun set over Yellowstone, casting long shadows across the forest, her tent stood alone, her gear neatly arranged inside, waiting for a return that would never come. As the sun dipped below the horizon on Thursday, July 24, 2025, casting long shadows across the Colorado landscape, James Carter sat by his phone, his heart heavy with worry. Emily had promised to check in via her satellite phone upon completing her 5-day trek along the Bechler River Trail in Yellowstone National Park. But as the hours ticked by, the expected message never arrived. By midnight, anxiety had turned to dread. He tried to rationalize. Perhaps she was delayed by a summer storm or captivated by a photogenic vista that kept her longer. But deep down, he knew something was wrong. Emily was meticulous about safety protocols, especially when venturing into the wilderness alone. Throughout the night, James sent multiple messages to her satellite phone, each one more urgent than the last. "Em, are you okay? Please respond," he typed, his fingers trembling. But the device remained silent, its silence amplifying his fear. By dawn, he could wait no longer. With a heavy heart, he dialed the number for Yellowstone National Park's emergency services. "Yellowstone National Park, how can I help you?" a calm voice answered. "My sister, Emily Carter, was on a solo hike along the Bechler River Trail. She was supposed to check in last night, but hasn't. I'm worried something's happened to her," James said, his voice cracking with emotion. The operator took down the details. Emily's description: 25 years old, fair skin, brown hair, wearing a red tank top and blue shorts. Her planned itinerary, the make and model of her car, and her last communication on July 20th. "We'll send a ranger to check the trailhead and see if her vehicle is still there," the operator assured him. Within an hour, Ranger Sarah Mitchell arrived at the Bechler Ranger Station parking lot, a remote gravel lot surrounded by towering pines. Among the scattered vehicles, she spotted Emily's blue Toyota RAV4, license plate XYZ123. It appeared undisturbed, with no signs of forced entry or damage. Peering through the window, she saw a folded map of Yellowstone and a stack of photography magazines on the passenger seat, a testament to Emily's passion. Mitchell then checked the trail register at the station. Emily had signed in on July 20th, noting her planned route along the Bechler River Trail and an expected return date of July 24th. There was no sign-out entry, confirming she had not returned as planned. Back at the ranger station, Mitchell alerted the park search and rescue coordinator, Captain John Reynolds. "We have a missing hiker, Emily Carter, last seen on July 20th, planned to return yesterday. Her car is still at the trailhead, and she hasn't checked in," she reported. Reynolds acted swiftly, his years of experience guiding his response. He assembled a team of seasoned rangers, volunteers, and K-9 units, establishing a command post at the Bechler Ranger Station. Maps of the area were spread across tables marked with Emily's planned campsites and key landmarks like Iris Falls and Bechler Meadows. The Bechler River Trail, known for its remoteness, dense forests, and challenging river crossings, posed significant obstacles for the search. By 10 a.m. on Friday, July 25th, the first search teams were deployed. Ground crews, equipped with radios and GPS devices, followed Emily's itinerary, starting from the trailhead and heading toward her first campsite near Bechler Meadows. Above, helicopters roared, their pilots scanning the vast wilderness for any sign of the missing photographer. The thrum of rotors echoed through the canyons, mingling with the distant roar of waterfalls. On the ground, rangers and volunteers called out, "Emily! Emily Carter!" their voices swallowed by the dense forest. James, unable to remain in Colorado, booked the earliest flight to Wyoming. He arrived in Jackson Hole on Saturday morning, July 26th, and drove straight to the park. At the command post, he met Captain Reynolds, his face etched with determination. "She's experienced, but she loves finding hidden spots for her photos," James explained, handing over a photo of Emily smiling with her camera. "She might have gone off-trail for a better shot." This insight prompted Reynolds to direct teams to explore less traveled paths and scenic overlooks along the trail. On Sunday, July 27th, a search team reached the campsite near Iris Falls, where Emily had spent her second night. There, under a canopy of lodgepole pines, they found her tent, neatly pitched beside a small clearing. Inside, her sleeping bag was rolled out, and her cooking gear was organized next to a compact camp stove. A water filter and a few dehydrated meal packets lay nearby, untouched, but her day pack, camera, and hiking boots were missing, suggesting she had left for a day hike and never returned. The scene was eerily orderly, as if Emily had intended to return at any moment. Reynolds called in the K-9 units. Handler Lisa Thompson arrived with her German Shepherd Max, a veteran of numerous searches. Max was given a scent article, Emily's hat, which James had brought from home. The dog sniffed it eagerly, tail wagging, and began to track. He led the team along the trail toward Iris Falls, his nose pressed to the ground, navigating through wildflower-strewn meadows and over rocky outcrops. But as they approached the Bechler River near the falls, Max grew agitated. He circled a rocky bank, whining softly, unable to pick up the scent beyond the water's edge. "It stops here," Thompson said, her brow furrowed. "It's like she vanished into thin air." Meanwhile, another team canvassed nearby campsites, interviewing hikers and campers. At a site a half-mile away, they spoke with Mark and Jessica Lee, a couple from California who had been in the park for a week. "Yes, we saw a young woman matching that description," Mark said, adjusting his glasses. "She was taking photos near the falls on Tuesday morning. There was a man with her, tall, scruffy beard, maybe late 30s. They were talking, but I couldn't hear what about. Later, I saw the man alone, heading back toward the trailhead." Jessica nodded, her expression uneasy. "He gave me the creeps. There was something off about him." Based on the Lee's account, the Rangers collaborated with a sketch artist to create a composite of the suspicious hiker. Described as being in his late 30s with dark hair, a scruffy beard, piercing blue eyes, and wearing a green jacket with a large backpack, he became a person of interest. The sketch was distributed to all search teams and posted at trailheads, with a call for anyone with information to come forward. The search intensified over the next few days. Volunteers poured in, and the Park Service deployed additional resources, including a drone to survey hard-to-reach areas cloaked by dense forest canopy. James joined the ground searches, hiking miles each day, his voice hoarse from calling Emily's name. Memories of their childhood, camping trips, her first camera, her infectious enthusiasm kept him going even as hope began to wane. But on the fifth day, July 29th, a severe thunderstorm swept through Yellowstone, bringing torrential rain and high winds that uprooted trees and churned the rivers. For safety, the search was suspended for 2 days. The storm obliterated potential tracks and washed away scents, leaving the teams with little to work with when operations resumed. On August 1st, the search continued, but the trail had gone cold. The rain had erased footprints, and Max could no longer detect Emily's scent. After 10 days of exhaustive efforts, covering miles of rugged terrain, scanning from the air, and following every lead, Captain Reynolds faced a difficult decision. At a press conference on August 4th, he announced, "We'll continue to have Rangers patrol the area and follow up on any tips, but the active search is being suspended." James, standing beside him, fought back tears. "I won't stop looking for her," he vowed, his voice steady despite his grief. "She's out there somewhere, and I will find her." As news of Emily's disappearance spread, media outlets descended on Yellowstone. Local stations aired footage of helicopters soaring over geysers and rangers combing the trails. James gave a tearful interview, holding up Emily's photo. "Please, if you've seen my sister or know anything, contact the authorities," he pleaded. Online forums buzzed with theories, accidents, wildlife encounters, abductions, but no concrete evidence emerged. Little did anyone know that the key to unraveling the mystery lay hidden in the wilderness, waiting to be discovered by an unlikely source. As summer faded into autumn in 2025, Yellowstone National Park settled into its quieter season, with golden aspens replacing the vibrant wildflowers of July. But for Emily Carter's family, the passage of time brought no relief. The initial search for Emily, launched after her brother James reported a scent reported her missing on July 25th, had yielded no definitive answers. Her tent, found near Iris Falls, was neatly pitched, but her daypack, camera, and boots were missing, suggesting she had vanished during a day hike. With no new leads, the official search was scaled back after 10 days, leaving the case in limbo and Emily's loved ones grappling with uncertainty. James Carter, a geologist with a methodical mind, refused to let his sister's disappearance fade into obscurity. He spent every weekend hiking the Bechler River Trail, retracing Emily's steps with a topographic map in hand. He searched meadows dotted with purple lupines, scoured rocky riverbanks, and climbed steep ridges, hoping to find any trace of her, a scrap of clothing, a lost item, anything. Emily wouldn't just disappear, he told volunteers who joined his efforts. She was too careful, too prepared. His determination inspired a small but dedicated group of supporters, funded by donations from an online community that had rallied around Emily's story. The case had captured national attention, fueled by media coverage and true crime enthusiasts. News outlets aired segments showing Yellowstone's geysers and wildlife, juxtaposed with somber updates on the missing photographer. Online forums buzzed with theories. Some speculated Emily had slipped on a wet rock and been swept away by the Bechler River's swift currents. Others suggested a bear attack, though no evidence supported this. The most persistent theory pointed to Michael Thorne, a suspicious hiker seen near Iris Falls around the time of Emily's disappearance. Described as tall, with a scruffy beard and piercing blue eyes, Thorne had left Yellowstone abruptly after news of the case broke, deepening suspicion. James hired a private investigator to dig into Thorne's past. The investigator uncovered a troubling history. Thorne, 38, had arrests for assault in Montana and Idaho, though he had served minimal time due to plea deals. He was known to frequent national parks, living off-grid for weeks at a time. Despite extensive efforts, Thorne remained elusive, his whereabouts unknown since leaving Yellowstone. "He's the key," James told his family. "If we find him, we find answers." Public interest in Emily's case surged, then waned as months passed without progress. Social media pages dedicated to her disappearance, managed by James, amassed thousands of followers who shared theories and offered support. Posts speculated about accidents, abductions, or foul play, with Thorne's name recurring in heated discussions. Yet, without concrete evidence, the case grew cold. In October 2025, Emily's parents, Susan and Robert, held a memorial service in Denver, placing an empty urn on the altar. "We'll always love you, Emily," Susan said, her voice breaking. James, unable to accept her loss, continued his searches, even as snow began to dust Yellowstone's trails. Then, on November 12, 2025, a breakthrough came from an unlikely source. Dr. Lisa Thompson, a wildlife biologist studying raven behavior in Yellowstone, was observing a nest high in a dead lodgepole pine near the Bechler River when she spotted something odd, a piece of bright red fabric woven into the twigs. Intrigued, she climbed up to investigate and found a woman's red-trimmed underwear, soiled and partially buried, alongside white plastic scraps and a turquoise fragment that resembled part of a hiking pack. Recognizing the potential significance, she contacted park rangers immediately. Ranger Sarah Mitchell arrived within hours, her heart racing. "This could be Emily's," she said, noting the location's proximity to Emily's last campsite. The items matched descriptions of her gear: red-trimmed clothing and a turquoise pack. Mitchell called for a search team, and the next day, rangers scoured the area. They uncovered a water bottle engraved with Emily's name, a notebook filled with her handwriting and buried under leaves, her camera, its lens scratched but intact. The discovery electrified the investigation. "This is it," James said when informed, his voice trembling with hope and dread. The camera was rushed to Yellowstone's forensic lab, where technicians retrieved its memory card. It contained hundreds of photos, vibrant shots of waterfalls, wildflowers, and Emily's smiling selfies. But among them were images that turned hope to horror. Photos from July 22, 2025, near Iris Falls, showed a man following Emily. His green jacket and scruffy beard were unmistakable Michael Thorne. In one image, he lurked behind a tree. In another, he was closer, almost within reach. The final photo was chilling. Emily lay on the ground, motionless, with Thorne standing over her, his face twisted in a sinister grin. The rangers knew they had the key to the mystery. They launched a targeted search near Iris Falls, focusing on a dense thicket. After hours of combing through underbrush, they found a shallow grave, partially concealed by branches. Inside were Emily's remains, her clothing torn, her body bearing signs of trauma. An autopsy later confirmed she had been sexually assaulted and killed by blunt force trauma to the head. The case was reclassified as a homicide. Using the photos, investigators identified Thorne as the man in the images. Facial recognition software and public tips confirmed his identity. Thorne, a drifter with a violent past, had been in Yellowstone during Emily's trek and fled soon after. He was tracked to a Montana town, where he worked as a handyman under an alias. Confronted with the photographic evidence, Thorne initially denied involvement, but soon confessed. He admitted to stalking Emily, attacking her when she rejected him, and killing her in a panic with a rock. Thorne was arrested and charged with first-degree murder, sexual assault, and tampering with evidence. His trial in Jackson, Wyoming, drew national attention, with Emily's family present daily. The prosecutor called Thorne a predator who exploited the wilderness's solitude. The jury convicted him after 2 hours, sentencing him to life without parole. Emily's family found some closure, though grief lingered. They held a memorial in Yellowstone, scattering her ashes near a meadow she loved. "She's home," James whispered, tears falling. The case became a cautionary tale, underscoring the need for vigilance in the wilderness and the power of nature, through a raven's nest, to reveal hidden truths. The trial of Michael Thorne began in Jackson, Wyoming, in March 2026, 8 months after Emily Carter's disappearance and 4 months after the chilling discovery of her remains near the Bechler River Trail. The Teton County Courthouse, a modest brick building nestled against the backdrop of snow-capped peaks, became a focal point for a grieving community and a nation gripped by the tragedy. Media outlets lined the streets, their cameras trained on the courthouse doors, while true crime forums buzzed with speculation about the man who had turned Yellowstone's serene wilderness into a place of horror. Inside the courtroom, the atmosphere was heavy with anticipation. Emily's parents, Susan and Robert Carter, sat in the front row, their faces etched with a grief that had become a permanent part of them. James, Emily's brother, was beside them, his jaw set, his eyes fixed on Thorne. The defendant, a gaunt 38-year-old with a scruffy beard and piercing blue eyes, sat impassively, his expression devoid of remorse. His green jacket, now evidence, was displayed in a sealed plastic bag, its faded fabric a haunting reminder of the photos found on Emily's camera. The prosecution, led by Assistant District Attorney Laura Bennett, presented a case that was both meticulous and devastating. They began with the physical evidence, the red-trimmed underwear and turquoise pack fragment found in the raven's nest, the water bottle engraved with Emily's name, and her camera, which contained the damning photos. Forensic experts testified about the memory card's contents. Hundreds of Emily's vibrant landscapes followed by Thorne's chilling images of her final moments. "These photos," Bennett said, her voice steady but laced with emotion, "are a window into a predator's mind. They show Emily fighting for her life, unaware that her own camera would become her voice from beyond." The courtroom fell silent as the images were displayed on a screen carefully curated to avoid gratuitous horror, but undeniable in their impact. One photo showed Emily hiking near Iris Falls, unaware of Thorne lurking in the background. Another captured her lying motionless, his shadow looming over her. Susan clutched Robert's hand, tears streaming down her face, while James stared ahead, his fists clenched. Thorne's defense attorney argued for a lesser charge, claiming the murder was not premeditated but a crime of passion sparked by a confrontation. But the prosecution dismantled this narrative, presenting Thorne's criminal history, assaults in Montana and Idaho, a pattern of targeting isolated areas, and a transient lifestyle that kept him under the radar. Michael Thorne didn't stumble upon Emily Carter, Bennett declared. He hunted her, exploiting the solitude of Yellowstone's backcountry. The most damning testimony came from the forensic anthropologist, Dr. Maria Gonzalez, who detailed Emily's injuries. The victim sustained multiple fractures, including a fatal blow to the skull consistent with blunt force trauma from a heavy object, likely a rock, she said. The presence of sexual assault further indicates a deliberate act of violence. The words hung in the air, a brutal confirmation of the family's worst fears. Thorne took the stand only briefly, his testimony cold and detached. When asked why he targeted Emily, he shrugged, his voice flat. "She was alone. It was easy." The courtroom gasped, and Susan buried her face in Robert's shoulder. James's eyes burned with rage, but he remained silent, honoring his sister's memory with restraint. The jury deliberated for just 3 hours before returning a unanimous verdict. Guilty on all counts: first-degree murder, sexual assault, and tampering with evidence. The judge, her voice heavy with condemnation, sentenced Thorne to life in prison without parole. "You preyed on an innocent woman in one of America's most sacred places," she said. "You will never walk free again." As Thorne was led away in handcuffs, the courtroom exhaled, a collective release of tension, but no true relief. For the Carters, justice was a hollow victory. The trial had laid bare the brutality of Emily's final moments, a wound that would never fully heal. Yet, it also brought a measure of closure. "We know what happened now," Susan said softly to reporters outside the courthouse. "We can bring her home." In April 2026, the Carters held a memorial service in Yellowstone at a meadow near Bechler Meadows, where Emily had photographed wildflowers. The air was crisp, the ground dusted with early spring snow, and the distant roar of waterfalls provided a somber backdrop. Friends, family, and park rangers gathered, sharing stories of Emily's vibrant spirit, her laughter, her passion for capturing nature's beauty, her fearless pursuit of adventure. James spoke last, his voice steady but thick with emotion. Emily saw the world through her lens, finding beauty in every detail. She'd want us to keep exploring, keep creating, keep loving this place, even after what happened. They scattered her ashes in the meadow, the wind carrying them toward the river she had loved. A raven circled overhead, its sharp call a poignant reminder of the bird that had unwittingly revealed the truth. "Thank you," James whispered, his eyes following the raven as it soared into the sky. Emily's case left a lasting mark on Yellowstone and beyond. Park officials implemented new safety measures, including increased ranger patrols on remote trails and educational campaigns urging hikers to travel in groups. The Carters established a foundation in Emily's name, funding photography scholarships and wilderness safety programs. "We want her legacy to inspire, not scare," Robert said at the foundation's launch. The story of Emily Carter became a cautionary tale, a reminder that the wilderness, for all its beauty, harbors dangers that are not always natural. Yellowstone's geysers still erupt, its rivers still carved through ancient stone, and its forests still hold secrets. But for those who know Emily's story, the park's majesty is forever tinged with a shadow of caution, a reminder that the greatest threats can hide in plain sight, wearing a human face. The discovery of Emily Carter's camera in a raven's nest on November 12, 2025, sent a jolt through the stagnant investigation into her disappearance. Found by wildlife biologist Dr. Lisa Thompson near the Bechler River Trail, the camera, scratched but intact, held a memory card that transformed the case from a missing person mystery into a chilling homicide investigation. As the winter chill settled over Yellowstone National Park, with frost coating the meadows and the Bechler River slowing to a glassy flow, investigators worked tirelessly to piece together the final moments of the 25-year-old photographer's life. At Yellowstone's ranger station, a makeshift evidence room buzzed with urgency. Ranger Sarah Mitchell, who had been among the first to respond when Emily was reported missing, oversaw the initial processing of the camera. The Nikon DSLR, its lens scratched from exposure to the elements, was carefully dusted for fingerprints. None were found, likely washed away by months of rain and snow, but the memory card was the true treasure. Technicians at the park's forensic lab, a small facility equipped for basic evidence analysis, extracted the card and accessed its contents under controlled conditions to preserve chain of custody. The photos revealed a haunting narrative. Emily's images captured the vibrant beauty of Yellowstone, cascading waterfalls, elk grazing in misty meadows, and the fiery glow of a sunrise over Iris Falls. But the final sequence, time-stamped July 22, 2025, was a descent into horror. A man appeared in the background of several shots, his green jacket and scruffy beard unmistakable. He was Michael Thorne, the suspicious hiker seen by witnesses Mark and Jessica Lee. One photo showed him lurking behind a pine tree, another closer, his eyes fixed on Emily. The final image was the most devastating. Emily lay on the ground, motionless, with Thorne standing over her, a rock in his hand, his face twisted in a grim expression. "This changes everything," Captain John Reynolds, the search and rescue coordinator, said as he reviewed the images with Mitchell. "We're not looking for a missing hiker anymore. We're hunting a killer." The photos were sent to the FBI's Regional Forensics Lab in Salt Lake City for advanced analysis. Experts confirmed the timestamps and ruled out tampering, establishing the images as irrefutable evidence. Facial recognition software, cross-referenced with a composite sketch from the Lee's description, identified Thorne with 92% confidence. "It's him," an FBI analyst confirmed. "We need to find this man now." The investigation escalated into a multi-agency effort. The Teton County Sheriff's Office, Yellowstone National Park Service, and FBI formed a task force, with agents fanning out across Wyoming, Montana, and Idaho. Thorne's transient lifestyle made him a ghost, moving between seasonal jobs, paying in cash, and leaving minimal digital traces. But James Carter, Emily's brother, provided a crucial lead. His private investigator had uncovered Thorne's history of assault arrests in Montana and Idaho, along with reports of him camping in national parks. "He's a drifter," James said, his voice tight with urgency. "He knows how to disappear." Investigators dug into Thorne's past, contacting employers and park officials across the West. A tip came from a campground manager in Bozeman, Montana, who recognized Thorne's sketch. "He stayed here last summer, worked odd jobs at a ranch," the manager said, "left in a hurry around late July." The timing aligned with Emily's disappearance, narrowing the search to Montana. By late November, the task force traced Thorne to a small town outside Missoula, where he was living under the alias Mike Turner and working as a handyman. On December 1st, 2025, a pre-dawn raid unfolded at a rundown trailer park. FBI agents, backed by local sheriff's deputies, surrounded Thorne's trailer, their breath visible in the frigid air. "Michael Thorne, come out with your hands up," an agent shouted through a megaphone. Inside, Thorne hesitated, his heart pounding, but he knew resistance was futile. He emerged, hands raised, his face as blank as it had been in Emily's photos. He was arrested without incident, cuffed, and transported to a holding facility in Missoula. A search of the trailer revealed a chilling find, a small metal box hidden under a floorboard. Inside were mementos, a woman's silver bracelet, a lock of blonde hair, and a crumpled trail map of Yellowstone marked with a red X near Iris Falls. While not directly linked to Emily, the items suggested a pattern of predatory behavior. "He's done this before," an FBI agent muttered, cataloging the evidence. The box was sent for DNA analysis, with hopes of connecting Thorne to other unsolved cases. Back in Yellowstone, the discovery of Emily's body on November 14, 2025, had shifted the search to a recovery mission. The shallow grave, hidden under branches and leaves near Iris Falls, contained her skeletal remains, still clad in tattered hiking clothes. Forensic anthropologist Dr. Maria Gonzalez confirmed the cause of death: blunt force trauma to the skull, consistent with a rock, and evidence of sexual assault. The findings were relayed to the Carters, who received the news with a mix of devastation and relief. "We have her back," Susan whispered, clutching Robert's hand. "But at what cost?" James, driven by his relentless search, met with investigators to review the evidence. He insisted on seeing the photos, though Mitchell warned him of their graphic nature. "I need to know," he said, his voice breaking. The images seared into his memory, Emily's vibrant smile replaced by terror. He channeled his grief into ensuring Thorne faced justice, working with the task force to build the case. The investigation uncovered additional witnesses. A hiker who had camped near Bechler Meadows in July recalled seeing Thorne watching Emily from a distance. He didn't mingle like other campers, the hiker said, just kept to himself, always looking toward her tent. Another lead came from a gas station clerk in West Yellowstone who remembered Thorne buying supplies days before Emily's disappearance. Each piece of evidence tightened the net around him. As winter deepened, Yellowstone's landscape transformed into a frozen wonderland, its geysers steaming against the snow. But the park's beauty was now a backdrop to a grim reality. The task force prepared for Thorne's interrogation, knowing the photos from Emily's camera would be their strongest weapon. They anticipated a battle of wills, but the evidence was overwhelming, a testament to Emily's unwitting role in capturing her killer's identity. Yet, as investigators closed in on Thorne, a chilling question lingered. Were there other victims hidden in the vast wilderness, their stories waiting to be uncovered by the silent witnesses of nature? The interrogation room in Missoula, Montana, was stark and cold, its cinder block walls and flickering fluorescent lights a stark contrast to the wild beauty of Yellowstone National Park. On December 2nd, 2025, Michael Thorne sat at a steel table, his wrists cuffed, his piercing blue eyes scanning the room with a mix of defiance and unease. Across from him were FBI Special Agent Karen Holt and Teton County Sheriff's Detective Mark Evans, both seasoned interrogators tasked with unraveling the truth behind Emily Carter's murder. Outside, a winter storm battered the city, snow piling against the windows as if nature itself demanded answers. Holt and Evans had spent the previous day reviewing the evidence. Emily's camera, its memory card holding photos of Thorne stalking and attacking her near Iris Falls. The items found in his trailer, a bracelet, a lock of hair, and a marked Yellowstone map. And witness accounts placing him near Emily's campsite. The case was ironclad, but a confession would solidify the prosecution's narrative and, more importantly, provide the Carter family with clarity about Emily's final moments. Holt began with a measured tone, sliding a photo of Emily across the table, a vibrant image of her smiling beside the Bechler River, her camera slung around her neck. "This is Emily Carter," she said. 25 years old, a photographer with a passion for capturing nature. She trusted the wilderness, but she didn't know you were there, Michael. Why don't you tell us what happened?" Thorne leaned back, his lips curling into a faint smirk. "I don't know her," he said, his voice flat. "Never seen her before those photos you keep waving around." His denial was expected, but his body language, crossed arms, a slight twitch in his jaw, betrayed his discomfort. Evans leaned forward, his voice low but firm. "We've got you on camera, Michael. Photos from Emily's own memory card, showing you following her, standing over her body. We've got your fingerprints on that map, your DNA on the items in your trailer. You're not walking away from this. Help us understand why you did it. Give her family some peace." Thorne's smirk faded, his eyes darting to the photo. For a moment, silence hung heavy, broken only by the hum of the heater. Holt pressed further, placing another image on the table, the final photo, where Thorne stood over Emily's motionless form, a rock in his hand. "This is you, Michael," she said softly. "You can't lie your way out of this. Tell us what happened that day." The room felt smaller as Thorne shifted in his seat, his bravado crumbling. After a long pause, he spoke, his voice low and halting. "It wasn't planned," he began. "I saw her on the trail day one at Bechler Meadows. She was alone, always with that damn camera. I watched her set up camp, move around so carefree. Something about her just got to me." Holt and Evans exchanged a glance, sensing the breakthrough. "What do you mean, got to you?" Evans asked. Thorne's eyes darkened, his words spilling out like a dam breaking. She was too perfect, too happy, out there alone, acting like nothing could touch her. I followed her, kept my distance at first. Day two, I got closer, saw her at Iris Falls, snapping pictures like she owned the place. I tried talking to her, offered to hike with her. She brushed me off, said she wanted to be alone. That pissed me off." He paused, rubbing his cuffed hands together. "On day three, I saw her head out for a day hike. I followed her to the falls. She was so focused on her photos, didn't hear me coming. I wanted to scare her, make her feel small. But she fought back, screamed, tried to run. I panicked, grabbed a rock and—" His voice trailed off, his gaze dropping to the table. Holt pressed gently, her voice steady. "And what, Michael? What did you do?" "I hit her," Thorne admitted, his voice barely a whisper. "Once, maybe twice. She stopped moving. I didn't mean to kill her, I swear. I just lost control. After, I dragged her into the woods, covered her with branches. Her camera was lying there, so I tossed it away, figured the river would take it. Didn't know about the raven." The confession was a gut punch, confirming the worst fears of the investigators and the Carters. Holt pushed further, probing for intent. "Why follow her for days, Michael? Why keep those items in your trailer, the bracelet, the hair? Were there others?" Thorne's jaw tightened, his eyes narrowing. "That's all you're getting?" he snapped, leaning back. "I told you about her. That's enough." His refusal to elaborate raised red flags, hinting at a deeper pattern of violence. The bracelet and hair, unmatched to Emily, suggested other victims. But without more, the investigators could only speculate. The confession was recorded and sent to the Teton County prosecutor, strengthening the case for trial. James Carter, informed of the details, sat in stunned silence at the ranger station, the weight of Thorne's words crushing him. "She fought back," he whispered to Ranger Sarah Mitchell, his voice breaking. "She was brave, even at the end." Susan and Robert, notified by phone, wept together in their Denver home, clinging to the bittersweet relief of knowing the truth. The interrogation revealed Thorne's psyche, a man driven by control and resentment, targeting those who seemed untouchable in their solitude. FBI profilers noted his transient lifestyle and history of assaults aligned with serial predators, prompting a deeper investigation into missing persons cases in other national parks. The metal box from his trailer containing the bracelet and hair was sent for advanced DNA testing, with results pending. As December snow blanketed Yellowstone, the park's serene beauty stood in stark contrast to the ugliness of Thorne's actions. The Bechler River Trail, once Emily's haven, was now a crime scene, its waterfalls and meadows forever marked by her loss. Investigators prepared for the trial, knowing Thorne's confession was a cornerstone, but the unanswered question lingered: how many others had fallen prey to him in the vast, silent wilderness? The snow-laden pines of Yellowstone National Park stood silent in January 2026, their branches heavy with the weight of winter. But beneath this serene facade, a storm of investigation churned as the FBI delved into Michael Thorne's past, seeking to uncover whether Emily Carter's murder was an isolated act or part of a broader pattern of violence. Thorne's confession on December 2, 2025, had sealed his guilt in Emily's death, but the contents of a metal box found in his Montana trailer, a silver bracelet, a lock of blonde hair, and a Yellowstone map marked with a red X, suggested a chilling possibility. Emily was not his only victim. At the FBI's field office in Salt Lake City, Special Agent Karen Holt led a task force dedicated to unraveling Thorne's history. The office, a maze of cubicles and evidence boards, buzzed with activity as analysts pored over case files from national parks across the West. Holt pinned a map of the region to the wall, dotted with red markers for unsolved missing persons cases in Glacier, Yosemite, and Grand Teton National Parks. "Thorne's been a ghost for years," she told her team. "He's lived off-grid, moved constantly, and targeted remote areas. We need to know if these cases connect." The metal box was the key. The silver bracelet, engraved with the initials LM, didn't match Emily's belongings, which bore her name or were unmarked. The lock of blonde hair, neatly tied with a ribbon, was sent for DNA analysis, but early tests ruled out a match with Emily, whose hair was brown. The Yellowstone map, marked with an X near Iris Falls, hinted at other locations Thorne frequented. "He kept trophies," Holt said, her voice grim. "Serial predators do this to relive their crimes. We need to find out who LM is." Investigators traced Thorne's movements over the past decade, a challenging task given his transient lifestyle. Employment records showed he worked seasonal jobs, ranch hand, campground maintenance, trail guide, in Montana, Idaho, and California. Park rangers in Glacier National Park recalled a Mike Turner matching Thorne's description, who left abruptly after a hiker went missing in 2022. In Yosemite, a 2023 report noted a suspicious camper near a trail where a young woman, Lisa Monroe, vanished. The initials LM sent a chill through the team. "Could be her," Detective Mark Evans said, pulling Lisa's file. Lisa Monroe, a 27-year-old botanist, had disappeared while studying rare plants in Yosemite's backcountry. Her case, like Emily's, involved an abandoned campsite and no trace beyond a riverbank. The bracelet's initials matched, and her blonde hair aligned with the trophy in Thorne's box. The FBI prioritized DNA testing, sending the hair sample to a national database. Meanwhile, agents interviewed former co-workers and campground residents, piecing together Thorne's patterns. A gas station clerk in West Yellowstone remembered him buying rope and duct tape in 2022, a detail that raised red flags. The Carter family, still reeling from Thorne's confession, followed the investigation closely. James Carter, who had tirelessly searched for Emily, met with Holt in Salt Lake City to review the findings. "If he hurt others, we need to know," James said, his voice steady, but eyes heavy with grief. "Emily's death can't be for nothing." Susan and Robert, Emily's parents, struggled with the news, torn between wanting justice for others and the pain of revisiting their loss. Every new detail feels like losing her again, Susan confided to a family friend. The investigation faced hurdles. Thorne, now in custody, refused to cooperate beyond his initial confession, clamming up when asked about the bracelet or hair. "You got me for the girl in Yellowstone," he told Holt during a follow-up interrogation. "That's all you need." His smug demeanor infuriated investigators who suspected he was withholding information to maintain control. The DNA results, delayed by backlogs at the lab, left the team in limbo, unable to confirm links to other cases. Public interest in the case surged as news of the trophy box leaked to the media. Headlines screamed, "Yellowstone killer linked to more disappearances." True crime podcasts dissected Thorne's profile, speculating about a serial predator stalking national parks. Online forums, once focused on Emily, expanded to list missing hikers, with users mapping similarities in cases across states. The Carters, overwhelmed by the attention, issued a statement through their lawyer. "We pray for answers for all families who've lost loved ones. Emily's memory drives us to seek justice." In late January, a breakthrough came. The DNA from the blonde hair matched Lisa Monroe, confirmed through a sample from her family. The bracelet, engraved with LM, was identified as a gift from her mother, last seen on Lisa's wrist in a photo from Yosemite. The evidence wasn't enough for an immediate charge. Thorne's presence in Yosemite in 2023 was circumstantial, but it strengthened the case for a serial pattern. Holt's team requested exhumation of a site near Lisa's last known location, hoping to find remains or additional evidence. As February approached, Yellowstone's frozen landscape seemed to hold its breath. The Bechler River Trail, where Emily had walked, was now a silent witness to a broader tragedy. Rangers patrolled the park, their radios crackling with updates on the investigation. The task force prepared to confront Thorne with the new evidence, hoping to pry open his secrets. But the question loomed larger than ever. How many other families were out there, waiting for closure, their loved ones lost to the shadows of the wilderness? As spring bloomed across Yellowstone National Park in April 2026, the meadows along the Bechler River Trail burst into life with vibrant wildflowers, purple lupines, yellow arnicas, and delicate white yarrow, echoing the beauty that had once captivated Emily Carter's lens. But for the Carter family, the season brought a bittersweet reminder of their loss. Emily's murder, confirmed by Michael Thorne's confession and conviction, had left an indelible mark on their lives. Yet, from their grief, emerged a determination to ensure her passion for photography and the wilderness would endure, transforming their pain into a force for change. James Carter, Emily's brother, stood at the forefront of this mission. The relentless search for his sister, followed by the harrowing revelations of her final moments, had left him both broken and resolute. Emily saw the world differently, he told a small gathering of family and friends at their Denver home. She found beauty in the smallest details, a flower, a shadow, a moment. We can't let her death be the end of that vision. With their parents, Susan and Robert, James founded the Emily Carter Foundation, a nonprofit dedicated to wilderness safety and supporting young photographers. The foundation's launch event, held on April 15, 2026, at a community center in Jackson, Wyoming, drew a crowd of locals, park rangers, and media. The venue was adorned with prints of Emily's photographs, Stunning images of Yellowstone's waterfalls, elk grazing in dawn light, and misty meadows. Each frame was a testament to her talent, her love for the wild etched into every pixel. Susan, her voice trembling but clear, addressed the crowd. Emily's camera was her way of sharing the world's beauty. Through this foundation, we'll keep her light shining, helping others chase their dreams safely. The foundation had two primary goals: funding scholarships for aspiring photographers and advocating for enhanced safety measures in national parks. The scholarship program, named the Emily Carter Photography Award, offered grants to young artists to pursue projects in natural settings. The first recipient, a 19-year-old from Montana named Clara Evans, spoke at the launch, clutching a camera much like Emily's. "Her photos inspired me to see the world differently," Clara said, her eyes glistening. "This scholarship means I can follow in her footsteps, but I'll never hike alone." The safety advocacy arm of the foundation worked closely with the National Park Service to address vulnerabilities exposed by Emily's case. James met with Yellowstone's park officials, including Ranger Sarah Mitchell, to propose increased ranger patrols on remote trails like Bechler, mandatory safety briefings for solo hikers, and improved satellite communication access in backcountry areas. Emily was prepared, but she was alone, James said during a meeting at the Bechler Ranger Station. "We need systems to protect people like her, so no family goes through this again." The Carters' efforts resonated beyond Yellowstone. News of the foundation spread through media outlets, with articles highlighting Emily's story and the need for safer hiking practices. True crime forums, once filled with speculation about her disappearance, shifted to discussions about prevention, with users sharing tips on group hiking and emergency beacons. The Foundation's website, featuring Emily's photos and safety resources, garnered thousands of visitors, many donating to support its mission. Meanwhile, the FBI's investigation into Michael Thorne's potential other victims continued, casting a shadow over the Carters' advocacy. Special Agent Karen Holt updated James regularly, sharing that the DNA from the blonde hair in Thorne's metal box had confirmed a link to Lisa Monroe, a botanist who vanished in Yosemite in 2023. The silver bracelet with LM initials was returned to Lisa's family, offering them a measure of closure. However, Thorne remained uncooperative, refusing to discuss other cases. "He's playing games," Holt told James, frustration evident in her voice. "We're searching park records and re-examining cold cases, but without his cooperation, it's slow." The possibility of other victims weighed heavily on the Carters. Susan, who had taken to writing letters to Emily as a way to cope, penned one that read, "Your courage helped catch him, sweetheart. If there are others, we'll find them for you." Robert, quieter in his grief, channeled his energy into fundraising for the foundation, organizing photo exhibitions of Emily's work in Denver and Bozeman. "Her art keeps her with us," he said, arranging a print of her favorite Yellowstone sunset. The foundation's first safety initiative, a Hike Safe workshop, held in May 2026 at Yellowstone's Mammoth Hot Springs, drew hundreds of attendees. Rangers demonstrated the use of satellite phones, bear spray, and GPS trackers, while James shared Emily's story, his voice breaking as he described her final photos. "She captured her killer without knowing it," he said. "Her camera was her weapon, and now it's our call to action." The workshop ended with a moment of silence, the crowd standing under a sky streaked with clouds, mirroring one of Emily's photographs. As summer approached, the Carters planned a second memorial for Emily, to be held in Yellowstone on the one-year anniversary of her disappearance. They envisioned a quiet gathering at Bechler Meadows, where her ashes had been scattered, to dedicate a small plaque in her honor. But the unresolved question of Thorne's other victims lingered, a shadow over their efforts to heal. Would the wilderness, which had revealed Emily's fate through a raven's nest, hold more secrets waiting to be uncovered? By July 2026, Yellowstone National Park shimmered under a summer sun, its geysers erupting in plumes of steam and its rivers carving paths through vibrant meadows. The Bechler River Trail, where Emily Carter had vanished a year earlier, was alive with hikers, their voices mingling with the hum of insects and the distant roar of Iris Falls. But the park was different now, shaped by the tragedy of Emily's murder and the relentless pursuit of justice that followed. The Carter family's efforts, through the Emily Carter Foundation, had sparked lasting changes, ensuring that Emily's love for the wilderness would endure alongside a new commitment to safety. The one-year anniversary of Emily's disappearance, July 22, 2026, marked a solemn milestone. The Carters returned to Yellowstone for a second memorial, gathering at Bechler Meadows under a sky painted with streaks of pink and gold. A small granite plaque, engraved with Emily's name and a camera icon, was placed near the trail, surrounded by wildflowers she had once photographed. Emily Carter, 2000-2025. Her lens captured beauty. Her spirit inspires safety. It read. James Carter, standing before the plaque, spoke to a small crowd of family, friends, rangers, and foundation supporters. This place took Emily from us, but it also gave her back through a raven's nest, he said, his voice steady. We honor her by making the wilderness safer for everyone. The Emily Carter Foundation had grown significantly since its launch in April. Its photography scholarship program awarded grants to 5 young artists in 2026, each inspired by Emily's vibrant portfolio. The Foundation's safety initiatives, developed in partnership with the National Park Service, led to tangible reforms in Yellowstone. Ranger patrols on remote trails like Bechler increased, with seasonal outposts established to monitor backcountry areas. Mandatory safety briefings were introduced at ranger stations, emphasizing group hiking, satellite communication devices, and awareness of surroundings. A new Hike Safe app, funded partly by the Foundation, allowed hikers to share itineraries and send emergency alerts, even in areas with no cell service. Susan Carter, who had found solace in organizing Foundation events, led the charge for broader advocacy. She testified before a congressional subcommittee on national park safety in June 2026, urging federal funding for enhanced ranger training and technology. Emily's death was preventable, she said, her voice unwavering. No family should endure this loss. We need to protect those who seek the beauty of our parks. Her testimony, broadcast nationally, spurred discussions about safety across the national park system, with other parks adopting Yellowstone's model. Robert Carter, quieter in his grief, focused on preserving Emily's art. He curated an exhibit, Through Emily's Lens, which toured galleries in Denver, Bozeman, and Jackson. The exhibit featured her Yellowstone photos, waterfalls shimmering in mist, elk silhouetted against dawn light, and wildflowers swaying in the breeze. Each image was paired with a safety tip, blending Emily's legacy with the Foundation's mission. "Her photos remind us why we love the wilderness," Robert said at the Jackson opening. "They also remind us to respect its dangers." The investigation into Michael Thorne's other potential victims, ongoing since the discovery of the metal box in his trailer, continued to cast a shadow. The FBI, led by Special Agent Karen Holt, confirmed the link between the blonde hair and Lisa Monroe, the Yosemite hiker, who vanished in 2023. A search near her last known location uncovered remains in July 2026, and DNA analysis confirmed her identity, bringing closure to her family. Thorne, serving life without parole, refused to cooperate further, leaving other cases, like a missing hiker in Glacier National Park in 2022, unresolved. "He's taken his secrets to his cell," Holt told James, frustration evident. "But we won't stop looking." The Carters found strength in their advocacy, though the pain of Emily's loss lingered. James, now a board member of the Foundation, hiked the Bechler River Trail annually, not to search, but to feel close to his sister. "I see her in every flower, every sunrise," he told a reporter. Susan and Robert, nearing retirement, dedicated their time to fundraising, ensuring the Foundation's longevity. The scholarship recipients, inspired by Emily's story, sent letters of gratitude, their words a balm for the family's grief. As the memorial concluded, a raven landed near the plaque, its glossy feathers catching the sunlight. It tilted its head as if acknowledging the gathering before soaring into the sky. The Carters watched, a bittersweet smile crossing Susan's face. "That's Emily's spirit," she whispered, squeezing Robert's hand. The crowd dispersed, leaving the meadow to its quiet beauty, the plaque a silent guardian of Emily's memory. Yellowstone remained a place of awe and mystery, its geysers erupting, its rivers flowing, its wildlife roaming free. But Emily's story had woven a new thread into its tapestry, a reminder that the wilderness is both a sanctuary and a place of hidden dangers. Her legacy, carried by the Foundation in the park's reforms, ensured that future hikers would tread more safely, their paths illuminated by the light of her life and the lessons of her loss.